Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back to the eastern wing of the Stink Bug Works. Today we have a very rare retake. And the only reason I'm giving you a retake of this is because I was drawing some pictures on this whiteboard, and I had it all out of frame as I'm drawing, and all you can see is my hand moving, and you can't see the gorgeous picture I'm drawing. So because of that, I'm going to reshoot it. So if I can remember the script from before, because there was no script, I had such a good success making this little cooling jacket for this, look at here, boys and girls, look at here, for this motor, that I thought I'd make one for this motor. So to that end, I got just the right size tubing, thin wall, right inside diameter that, would allow a couple millimeters, without being a big space hog. So I glued some of this here carbon fiber onto the ends, cut it out, started working with it on the lathe. And the problem comes to when you're getting real close to being there. So this side is almost, it's within 1,000th or so of being able to slip on. So I'm ready to make my last pass here, and then I'll hit it with some sandpaper. And what I was doing is I'd run an operation on this side, and then I'd flip it over and run that same operation on this side. And then, I'd keep increasing it a couple thousandths, because you can only take this stuff off in real light layers, especially when you're working with thin stuff such as this. Well, the problem is this just gets too thin and it breaks. So on my last pass, I'm within 1,000th of fitting, right? It almost fits. I could probably twist it around to what you see. It does kind of almost fit. So another thou, and it would slip right on. Well, I'm cutting my last thou, and the ring pops off. I'm using the wrong materials. Now let's talk about materials and what I'm going to do. And here's where I get to draw on. So this is 29.4 millimeters, which works out to be like, let's just say for the sake of argument, 1.15 inches. It's a little less than that, but let's just say 1.15. I'm going to get 1.25 inch aluminum rod, 1.25, which is 1/10 of an inch, a little less than 1/8 of an inch, larger in diameter than this. Then I'll chuck that thing up, and here's what I'm going to do. And here's where you get to see the cool picture, and I'm going to make sure, let me wiggle things around, that it's in frame. So the piece I'm getting is going to be 1.5 inches long. So it's a fairly long piece, because the motor's only going to be, what is that, 3/4 of an inch. It's going to be half the length of this. So there's where it's eventually going to cut off. And this end here, we will be chucked in the jaw. You with me? Then I'm going to bore the thing past this mark with a drill. And I'll just step drill it, and I'll keep going to a larger and larger and larger drill and getting that hole bigger and bigger and bigger until I've got my biggest drill in there, and I don't have 1.25 inch drill that I can run down there. But I'll start running bigger and bigger drills until I'm getting close to the motor diameter. Then once I have the motor diameter, I'm going to come in with a boring bar, and I'm going to bore it out to the motor diameter. And see, I'm past the motor. Remember, that's the part I'm going to use, is everything on that side of this line will be the part. Then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in with my router, and this, remember, is going to be, what did I say it was? 1.15 inches, 1.15, and the whole overall is 1.25. So each one of these is going to be 1/2 of an inch, which is going to be a little bit under 1/16 of an inch. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to bore out, because of the way the shape of the tool, I'm going to bore out this side to just before this mark. I'll have this indexed and I'll come back, 1/8 of an inch or so, and I'll bore that out like that. You picking up when maybe I'll bore it out a little further. So I'll bore it out kind of like that. All right. Then I cut it off here. And I'm left with this piece. And I'll already have a setting on my boring bar for this depth right here. And I'll just take this piece, chuck it up at this end. See, I'll chuck it up at this end. Here will be the chuck. You know, the chuck's grabbing it there. And I'll bore it out to here. And that will be my water jacket. And it'll be one piece. I won't have to worry about the ends coming off. Again, this is going to be real thin. This is going to be less than a 1/16. This is going to be, a 1/16 is 625 thousandths. This is going to be 500 thousandths. So, you know, it's going to be a little less than a 1/16 of an inch. So I've got to be real careful with my cuts because I don't want to twist this thing. You know, if I take a big bite out of it, that's why I'm doing these last cuts when everything else is done and I'm only cutting a little bit, and I just have to be real careful with these cuts because this material is going to be getting thin. But then I will have an appropriately cool aluminum jacket for this thing, and I'm going to take out my VHT, very high temperature barbecue black paint, which is probably what this is, and paint this barbecue black and put it on there, and it'll look like it came that way from Steve's little from the secret caves of Peenemunde itself. There you go, boys and girls. That's my plan. Miss Seattle should arrive tomorrow afternoon late. So this is Sunday. Look for Miss Seattle Tuesday morning. Until then, boys and girls, jet out.